Well, you know what they say, the times are a-changing. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what those changes are here in Alaska. Before we jump into that, though, my name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and a significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about everything that's going on in Alaska and potential changes that are going to be coming in the near future that could make a big impact for what it's like living here in the state. So without further ado, let's go and jump into it. All right, now the first thing that I'm going to have on this list is building a bridge from Anchorage to Point Mac. Now, let me explain real quick. For those of you who aren't aware, what this is when you look at the bowl of kind of the Anchorage Bowl area, you see this part of around Government Hill in Anchorage where it kind of juts out, and it's actually not too far away from the other side of the inlet that would take about an hour and a half to drive over there. And it's really not that far. If you were to build a bridge, it would actually connect Point Mac, which is imagine like the Matsu Valley, Wasilla, that big lake area. It would connect there and it would bring all that like super close. So no longer is it like a 30-40 minute drive if you're living in the valley to get to Anchorage where most people work. We're talking like 10-20 minutes or something like that if you were going to live down there. And this would be a huge game changer because Matsu Borough would be able to go in and essentially create a couple of new towns overnight that are living right there on the doorsteps of Anchorage, and they could quickly and easily get to work, and they'd be able to get the benefits of the higher wages over in Anchorage and not have to have the downside of making the long commute every day. And really the entire community would benefit. Anchorage, maybe not so much, because reason a lot of people still live in Anchorage at this point is because they just don't want to do that commute. And if suddenly that commute is just brought down to a fraction, the conjecture is that people might actually just say, you know what, Anchorage isn't what it used to be, and I'm just going to go live in the valley and like this town of Kinnick that was just established, and take my chances over there, keep my job. I just don't want to live here in Anchorage anymore. So for that reason, you're probably going to see Anchorage like fighting this tooth and nail if it ever does come up. Now, when I say the bridge to Point Mac, you've mentioned this to Alaskans and just about everyone's going to roll their eyes because this is something they've been talking about for decades. But in recent conversations with the Matsu Borough manager, Michael Brown, it sounds like this is something that they're actually seriously looking at right now because we'll get into that another time. But really just for infrastructure reasons, it makes a lot of sense to really seriously be looking at that, and it's actually going to be cheaper than some of their other options. And so for that reason, they're actually looking at making this happen. And not only would it be cheaper, but like overnight, they get the tax base of a couple new towns just almost immediately. So you can see there's really no downside for the Matsu Valley. I suspect if this does happen, it's going to be something where it's just nothing, and then suddenly it just looks like it happens overnight, and it's like, oh shoot, we're doing this in 2 years. Okay, here we go. So that is going to be something where if it happens, it could really shake up the entire South Central area. And that's significant because this is where the vast majority of the population in the state lives. All right, moving on from the bridge to nowhere, as it has been called, is talking about a corridor kind of bypassing all of Wasilla. Now, this would really be significant because right now all the traffic kind of gets funneled right through kind of the Parks Highway going through Wasilla. And this is kind of a problem because the roads really weren't designed to have that much traffic going on it, and it really can create a bottleneck that really slows everything down. And the roads are getting torn up and beaten down, and you just really can't stop to fix them because, you fix one lane on that road and like feels like a quarter of the state is late for work. And so for that reason, it's really problematic right now because, where do we go from here is really where we're at. Like, we're here now, everyone doesn't like it, but what's the solution? There's really no pain-free options. And one of the options is talking about creating a corridor, just bypassing Wasilla altogether and stay on the highway, and that's great. The issue is that the corridor options would go through areas that are pretty well developed already, and that creates a lot of issues with eminent domain and everything else, and that's not an option that I think anyone is really excited about, having to use eminent domain and go through these areas that are already developed. And that's going to have to be something Wasilla is going to have to figure out further down the road here, the Matsu Borough, if that's something that they do want to do. And that's going to be something we're going to have to parse out here in the future. But yes, if the corridor happened, it would definitely shake up the Matsu Valley and would really, for Wasilla at least, alleviate a lot of the congestion that the town is feeling. This next option, if it happens, has a big potential to shake up the entire state, and that is Eagle Exit. Now, if you're not aware what Eagle Exit is, it is a movement in Eagle River in Chugiak to break away from Anchorage. So looking like the northern part of Anchorage, that entire section up to the Kinnick Bridge, just saying, you know what, we're done. We want to have our own self-governments, and we're going to support ourselves just using the property taxes and everything right now, and that's going to support our little section just fine, and we're done. We're breaking away. And if that happens, like Anchorage overnight loses one of the biggest tax bases that it has, and loses a lot of the income that it was generating from that, because Eagle River and Chugiak actually contribute more to the municipality than it receives back. And if that were to happen, this really does shake up the politics for the entire state, because the mayor of Anchorage to the governor of Alaska is really the same that the mayor of New York has with the governor of New York. They're kind of vying with each other, and you can definitely see there's definitely a political wing that has a much stronger hold on Anchorage as far as the local elections and everything go. And so you can see that if that suddenly changed, and you see that suddenly the population just drops for Anchorage overnight, and their tax base drops, and suddenly that starts tipping the scale in that in the overall relationship with the politics for the state. Add on top of that, if the bridge were to happen, suddenly you get a lot of people leaving Anchorage, and then you have Eagle Exit happen, where suddenly this big swath of the city just separates. Then you can see how Anchorage could suddenly find themselves very hard to put. So if Eagle Exit happens, it would definitely shake up the entire area. Where do we stand on that movement right now? Well, I'm probably going to have some episodes in the near future kind of talking about that. But yes, for right now, Eagle Exit happens, it would definitely be a big game changer. Maybe not for people day to day, but I think for the politically inclined in the state and kind of the long-term trajectory of the communities, it would make a big difference. Believe it or not, there is actually talk right now of creating a capital gains tax in Alaska, and this is really not a great idea for a lot of reasons. One of the big advantages that Alaska has over most other states is we don't have a capital gains tax. So for those people who are here, this really is one of the big perks of living here, that they get to keep more of their hard-earned money. And there's actually a proposal of, hey, let's bring in capital gains tax. And great. Wonder who this is going to be benefiting. And so, if this were to happen, it would definitely be a big game changer, because, you start squeezing people more and more and more, and taxing. And, pretty soon it's just too expensive for most people to stick around for generations. And so for that reason, that could be a big game changer as well. I'm not really sure where we're at right at the moment. I really hope it just got nipped in the bud and we're not still talking about it, but it is something I heard about just a little bit ago. Now, let's go and take a break real quick here. For those of you who've been watching, you know that I do host a podcast called the Alaskan Journey podcast, where I interview people who have recently moved to Alaska, or people who've lived here for a long time and just want to share their insights about what they think of the state. So do make sure that if you haven't done so already, you go listen to that podcast. Link for that is in the description section down below. And love to see you there. And let's go and finish out today's video. If you've worked with me as your real estate agent, you will know that Alaska is a non-disclosure state, which means that when the tax assessor shows up after you've purchased a house and they ask you how much you paid for it, you can just completely throw that letter away and you can ignore them. Okay, and the reason for that they are trying to get that from you is they want you to squeal on yourself how much you paid for it so they can up your taxes. And Alaska, again, is non-disclosure. They can ask you. You don't have to tell them. And there was a movement in Juneau a little while ago to try to take this away, so property owners do suddenly have to disclose how much they actually make. And luckily it did get nipped in the bud. And actually, the National Association of Realtors pumped, I think it was like $100,000 like into the lobbying to make sure that that didn't happen. So yeah, for everyone who hates realtors, there you go. Hope you're happy. They still did some good work for you, even though there's never really going to be much ink spilled or people applauding that. So there you go. As we move forward, we're going to see more and more small communities connected to electricity. And if you have never lived in a town before that was not connected to electricity, you really don't understand what a game changer this is and how it changes the lifestyle and the overall quality of life in the town altogether. So it's a great thing to see electricity is becoming more and more accessible to these more remote areas, and that's going to be something that's going to continue. All right, now this next one, nobody has a crystal ball. No one knows what's going to happen in the future. But what I will say is if there is some big global war, Alaska is actually historically kind of benefited from these long term, because suddenly the powers that be suddenly get really motivated, suddenly start developing our resources up here. And so we see a lot of infrastructure coming in. We see a lot of resources and manpower and everything else showing up here. So if there was a big war, you know, it kind of depends like with who, where, and all that good stuff, obviously. But as a whole, Alaska has kind of benefited from it. So if there is a war, you know, it stands to reason we'd probably see further development of our oil field potential and all the other resources that we do have up here. We'll probably see more roads and everything, and we wouldn't have to just fight it out in the U.S. Congress every time we want to build a simple road up here. Last but not least, there's actually talk about putting in deeper water harbors in places like Seward, which is great because this means that larger cruise ships can come in, which means that those tourists can get off and then, you know, go and enjoy, more of them can get out and actually enjoy the state, which if we have more tourists, that does create obviously more income for the entire state. And yeah, I mean, by the way, there was a post about that and talking about Deepwater Harbor coming in Seward, and the whole comment section on Facebook just turned into a complete town hall meeting right there in the comment section. So if you can find that somewhere, it's absolutely gold. And please post that in the comment section. I'd love to go back and take a look at it because I lost track of where it was. But yeah, this has been your video talking about the biggest changes coming to Alaska, or potentially coming to Alaska. We don't know if any of these are going to happen, but if they do, you can clearly see the long-term implications. So thank you very much for watching. If I missed anything, do make sure to post those in the comment section down below, and we'll see you next time.